Greetings, everyone. I'm Natalie Roy of Glasgow Middle School in Baton Rouge, Louisiana, and today I'll be presenting Roman STEM Challenges, Classics for Everyone, as part of the panel on building the accessible classroom at the annual meeting of the Society for Classical Studies. Welcome, and thank you for joining me today. 5 years ago, I researched, designed, and developed a curriculum based on the material culture of ancient Rome. In this year-long upper-level Latin course called Roman Technology, we used Latin text to recreate the products and processes of ancient Roman daily life through hands-on STEM challenges and experimental archaeology. For example, after reading Pliny the Elder's description of concrete, we mixed, set, and then tested our own. After reading the research of Janet Stevens, we recreated the hairstyles of ancient Roman women. The 5 students enrolled who took this course as an alternative to AP Latin thought it was super interesting, and we all enjoyed this wonderful experiment. When I left that job to work in the nearby public school district, the principal hired me to teach 3 Latin classes in the Gifted and Talented program. And in order for my job to be full-time, she asked me to teach elective classes of my choice in the traditional program. Using my original Roman technology class as a starting point, I expanded the curriculum so that any student could enroll. This meant removing the Latin language requirement of the original class so that the course could be accessible to all students. In addition to the Roman Tech class, I designed another called Myth Makers, in which students use classical mythology as inspiration for STEM maker challenges. As a teacher, the process of developing these courses excited me because I got to think outside the box of language instruction, which can be limiting. I used this opportunity to design 2 classics courses that were truly accessible to all learners. And before I get into some examples, a quick word about STEM. To be clear, STEM in K-12 education is more of a methodology than a subject. It's not just teaching science, technology, engineering, and math, but using those subject areas to spark creative and critical thinking, as well as collaborative skills in the service of a design challenge. It's very much a way of thinking and learning rather than just instruction in the subjects that the acronym stands for. Some STEM teachers even become more exclusive in categorizing STEM. All of the subject areas have to be represented, and the challenge or problem has to have more than one solution. Others are less restrictive, but still, it's worth noting that what STEM teachers consider STEM is not always what the general public sees as STEM. The first example I'll use today is our catapult challenge. And since weapons, even replicas, are not allowed on our campus, we focus on mini models and the concepts that make Roman catapults so effective. We start the unit with a short lecture on the history and development of catapults in the Mediterranean world, focusing on the material remains such as stone catapult shot at Masada and the images of catapults on Trajan's column. Throughout the lecture, I guide the students in reading short articles and watching videos of replicas in action, including a passage by Josephus on their violent effects on those being attacked. The students also read selections in translation from Vitruvius's Book 10 of De Architectura about the weight, size, and aerodynamic qualities of the different projectiles and the construction of a scorpion. Vitruvius himself was a scorpion operator in the Roman army of the 1st century BCE. Next, the students learn to build 3 mini models out of simple materials such as tongue depressors, rubber bands, and bottle caps. After each build, they must test their catapult's performance in 3 challenges. 1, distance. The students shoot their catapults as far as possible, measure, and then record data with each of the different projectiles: a cotton ball, a ping pong ball, and a pencil eraser. Number 2, accuracy. The students have to shoot the projectile into a bowl and record accuracy data. And 3, tower. The students have to record how many shots they fire to knock down a tower made of paper cups. In each of the challenges, there's a variable and a constant for the students to take note of. In the next step of the unit, students are then given the information they need to learn in these initial challenges to construct their own catapult, constrained by the supplies they're given. Students whose catapults perform best are asked to model their shots and explain why they think they work so well. Likewise, students whose models flop must reflect on why they failed and are allowed to tweak their models for better performance and try again. Surely the Romans worked in the same way. To say that the students enjoy this unit is an understatement, but the best thing about it is that they can easily be adapted to serve students of any ability. Students with autism, students with learning differences, those who have trouble with reading or math, all students can be successful in this type of class. The second unit I'd like to share is a more collaborative one that we did a couple of years ago when working with learning partners was not as restricted due to the pandemic. And in this unit, our final product was a permanent 20-foot analematic mosaic sundial on our school's campus. We began the unit by learning about the science behind a variety of sundials from antiquity, including the Horologium Augusti. The students read, again in translation, about the analemma explained in Vitruvius's book 10. An analemma is a visual representation from the vantage point of the earth of the path of the sun through the sky as it changes through the seasons. It looks similar to an infinity symbol. On an analemmatic sundial, the shadow of the viewer becomes the gnomon, or indicator of the time. We use our math skills as we learned how to orient to true north, reviewed and plotted XY coordinates to place our hourly markers, and practiced using carpentry measuring tapes, which you see here. And once we had mapped out and plotted our sundial, the next step in the process was learning to design and lay mosaics. Having watched videos of modern mosaic artists using this ancient technology, the students learned to cut stone using hardy wedges and hammers, weigh and estimate stone, design mosaics, lay them in mortar, and grout the stone. It took a huge amount of collaboration, creative thinking, and engineering to bring this project to fruition. But we finished it, it works, and now it stands as a testament to the ingenuity of ancient people and my students. I'll talk about one more project from my Myth Makers class, but only briefly in the interest of time. The focus of this class is not so much on STEM, but on maker education, a cultural movement that encourages students to make things in the service of humanity. In our unit on Jason and the Argonauts, the students hear the story of the Argo and then attempt to make a boat out of cardboard that will win a race powered solely by their breath. It's a fun and educational challenge that involves learning a lot about how ancient boats worked. And there are so many other maker and STEM challenges already in existence that only need to be adapted to a classical theme. For example, we just finished a unit on Theseus and the Minotaur. Students were challenged to create a marble maze using what they had learned about the ancient maker Daedalus. And we're about to read the story of Arachne. After that, I will teach the students how to weave on cardboard looms. And I could tell you about so many other projects we've developed and researched and led, spinning and weaving, and dyeing our wool, our aqueduct and water screw challenges, recreating makeup recipes of Ovid, and constructing small brick kilns, even baking bread from recipes by Cato the Elder. In the interest of time, though, I'll stop here so that I can tell you the best thing about these classes, and there is their accessibility. They have truly been designed to include all types of learners. And here's a little background information about the demographics of my school district. Because my school and our entire district is the second largest in the state with almost 41,000 students, they track kids based on their skills in English language, arts, and math. Most traditional students, those that are not enrolled in the gifted and talented programs, are double scheduled in English language classes to remediate them. Thus, they're not allowed to take a second language, like Latin. And there is simply no time in their schedule. And thus, the only exposure they might get to the classical world is a 4-week unit on ancient civilizations in their 6th grade social studies class. My school is composed of 83% students of color, and my STEM and maker classes are currently at 79% students of color. Students whom I've never even met approach me in the hall in the cafeteria about when they can get into my classes. Here's an example of why this type of classics class works. During my first year of teaching this course, I had a traditional student approach me on day 2 to tell me that he'd be dropping the class because he could not read well and he was worried about not succeeding. When I encouraged him to stay with a promise that I would help him when needed, he did. And he was consistently the best engineering brainchild I taught that year. He won challenge after challenge because he innately understood how things worked. And he would never have succeeded in a Latin class that centered language instruction. And one of my current students, an 8th grader, tried to kill himself in October. Since then, he has been in and out of school in mental health facilities in other cities. He has been removed from his home by social services. Oftentimes, he doesn't show up to school. And as you can imagine, he has missed a lot of class due to these absences. I often wonder how this child, an intelligent reader, would have fared in my Latin class. Would he be able to keep up with all the new vocabulary and grammar, having missed so much instruction? I'm not sure, but I know that he's doing great in my Mythmakers class that allows him to access the classical world without the strings of language instruction. And I will say here, many students at my school are in this same experience. So it's been almost 4 years now that I've taught the 2 elective courses, and they're always the most requested of all the elective classes at my school. While Latin classes have remained small, my biggest one right now is 15 students, the elective classes have exploded in interest. Last year, I taught 3 sections of Roman technology with over 20 students in each one. And this year, I'm teaching 3 sections of Mythmakers to 65 students. So I'll close this presentation with a question. Should Latin students be the only ones who get to experience the material culture of the ancient classical world? Is language instruction the only valid way for kids to learn about the ancient classical world? I say no to both. The field of classics has much more than languages to offer young students. There is heavy STEM focus in fields closely aligned with classics, such as archaeology, paleography, numismatics, etc. And we as a field should be focused on broadening the scope and access of classics education, especially for young students. And STEM, with its natural connections to classics, is a fruitful pathway for teaching the classical world. You can contact me here or through my link tree. Thanks for coming. I appreciate it.